Maurice Garin, the winner of the first 2 Tour de France, rode a bike with wooden rims and was stripped of his 1904 title for completing part of a stage on a train. 101 tours in and things have changed. Behind every lung-busting climb or sprint to the line lurks one thing: science.
Rapid rotation, instruments, books, Spider-Man.
The training and performance of athletes has changed quite dramatically over the years. It wasn't too long ago where cyclists thought that having a cigarette before attempting a col would be a good idea. One of the big things that we see, and it's in cyclists, it's a phenomenon we call ectomorphy, which essentially means people are getting thinner and taller. You get these individuals, and they seem to be the ones who have this fairly unique set of characteristics, which is allowing them to perform at the highest standard.
Whatever the era of cycling, it's never about being merely lean and fit. Mental toughness is often the final essential ingredient needed to make it onto the Tour.
I mean, there were some pretty dark periods for me in the Tour de France when I was really, sort of despairing at times and just trying to get through. And as I said, hoping that a good day was going to come.
We can test for these physical characteristics quite easily in the lab to predict what performance might be, but can we really understand someone's will to succeed? So I think ultimately that's really what makes a champion.
And a champion sits on a champion's bike, which could cost you up to £10,000. That means technology's come a long way as well.
From the Tour de France's infancy right up to kind of the 80s, like steel frame bikes were the mainstay in the peloton. And then you got the aluminium stuff in the 90s, and then carbon fibre, which is just, it's light, it rides quite nice, and it's very strong. Your brake calipers, just the way that the pivots work and the quality of the internal cables and things, you've got a lot of bite on them. So the very, very early Tour de France's, you had to do all your repairs yourself, and that's why you see in the old footage, people have like tyres over their shoulders and stuff, and they're carrying their spares on the bike.
Which is all a world away from today's Tour.
Yeah, you can typically get a wheel change done in sort of 10 seconds, which is pretty good.
Unfortunately, when discussing modern pro cycling, there's one issue you can't ignore.
Doping at the Tour de France. Undoubtedly, there was a huge problem of drug taking, and that was only shown more clearly than ever with Lance Armstrong losing his 7 Tour titles because he cheated in all 7 of them. And he's not the only one. There are many other riders that cheated too during that time.
I think you'd have to say that the sport is still actually quite buoyant today. I think going into this year's Tour, it looks like a very healthy sport, huge amounts of support, huge amounts of enthusiasm for the sport. So actually you have to say, well, did those doping scandals actually harm the sport?
Looking forward, and with over 3,500 kilometres to ride on this year's Tour, it's time to put the people of Sheffield in the saddle with a glimpse into life in the peloton.
It's tough, it's definitely tough. People get on there and they cycle as hard as they can, as best they can, and you get off and you're sore and your legs feel like jelly, so people, they know what it takes to compete in the Tour de France.
And perhaps it's that enduring challenge that has kept people hooked for over a century.